We spend more than a decade in school, right? Learning about history, science, complex math. But then we graduate, and most of us know almost nothing about how money actually works. We're not taught about taxes or debt or investing. So, why is that?
I
I'm
mean, think about it for a second. We all had to memorize stuff like the Pythagorean theorem, a formula that, let's be honest, most of us will literally never use again. But what about filing your taxes? Understanding a credit score? Managing debt? That's essential life knowledge, and it's just completely missing from the curriculum. It's this really strange universal blind spot in our education.
So why is this the case? I mean, really, why are we taught the abstract but not the practical? Is it just some big oversight, or is there something a little more deliberate going on here? Well, that's the mystery we're going to try and unravel in this explainer.
So, what are the reasons for this huge educational gap? Some of the answers are pretty uncomfortable, and they really start with the very foundation of the system itself. This right here is the first and maybe the most jarring reason. The source material argues that the entire goal of modern education was never to create financially independent people. And that idea, well, it kind of changes how you look at everything. See, our modern education system was really forged during the Industrial Revolution. And what society needed back then wasn't a population of entrepreneurs and investors. It needed a reliable workforce, obedient factory workers who could follow instructions. And that core design, the idea of creating employees, still influences the whole system today. And this slide really lays out the fundamental conflict. The system's goal is to produce reliable workers who earn a salary and then spend it, which, fuels the consumer economy. But that is directly at odds with creating financially independent critical thinkers who might just challenge that very system. So you might be thinking, okay, sure, but why not just add it to the curriculum, like biology or art? Well, it turns out there are some pretty practical barriers that get in the way. And the first one is all about how schools measure success. Schools are built on standardization. With a curriculum that's already jam-packed, they need subjects that can be easily broken down, taught uniformly, and most importantly, tested with things like multiple choice exams. It's all about creating measurable, predictable results on paper. Now, what's really interesting here is the contrast. Academic subjects are theoretical, and they fit neatly into those standardized tests. But personal finance? Oh man, that's the real world. It's messy, it involves risk, human emotion, and super complex decisions that don't have a simple right or wrong answer. You can't grade life with a Scantron sheet. But beyond the practicalities of just testing, there's a much more human reason for avoiding the topic of money in the classroom. And it really comes down to a very powerful emotion: fear. So here's the core issue. Teaching finance means teaching about real-world risk. What happens if a teacher explains investing and a student later tries it and loses money? I mean, who gets blamed? The school? The teacher? To avoid that potential liability, institutions choose safety over usefulness. They stick to harmless theory instead of practical, risky reality. And this problem just feeds itself. I mean, think about it. The teachers themselves are products of the exact same system. Most of them were never taught financial literacy either, and a lot of them probably wouldn't feel qualified to teach it. So how can they be expected to teach a subject they were never shown? The cycle just goes on and on. But all of this builds to an even more profound reason for keeping finance out of the classroom. And this one goes way beyond practicality and gets into the psychology of power and control. You see, when you understand how money works, you naturally start asking some uncomfortable questions. You question the tax system. You question how banks create debt. You start to see the mechanisms that keep some people trapped while others seem to build wealth. And big systems, generally, do not appreciate being questioned. This quote really just cuts to the heart of it all. A financially uninformed population is good for business. For credit card companies charging sky-high interest, for predatory lenders, for a consumer culture that thrives on impulse spending. A financially aware population, though, well, they're much more selective and a lot harder to exploit. And instead of empowering students, the school system often does the opposite. It can frame money not as a neutral tool, but as something that's inherently bad. The root of greed and corruption. This creates a sense of fear and avoidance around the topic, which only reinforces dependence on the very systems you should be questioning. So we've seen the why. Now let's look at the consequences. What is the real-world cost of graduating without this crucial knowledge? The result is a predictable and often pretty painful cycle. You graduate completely unprepared,
You start earning money, but you have no idea how to manage it. You fall into debt. And to cope, you work harder, but you just seem to fall further and further behind. And the worst part? You blame yourself, never realizing you were systematically set up to fail. What school doesn't teach you, life eventually will. But as this quote powerfully states, life's lessons are not free. The mistakes you make with money early on, the debt, the bad investments, the missed opportunities, they all compound over time. Life charges a very, very high interest rate for financial ignorance. Okay, I know this has all been pretty grim, but it's not the end of the story. Once you really understand the problem, you can start to find the solution. And that solution begins with a shift in power. This is the most important takeaway of all. Just because the school system failed you in this one area doesn't mean you're doomed. This is not a life sentence. It's a call to action. It's an opportunity for you to take control of your own education. And it's so critical to redefine what financial literacy even means. It's not about a single-minded obsession with getting rich. It's about having control over your life. It's about having choices. It's about reducing stress and having the freedom to actually design your own future. And this distinction is key. The formal education you got may have given you a set of tools, but self-education, the knowledge you go out and seek for yourself because you know you need it, that is what truly gives you power. And that's where we'll end this explainer. Understanding and controlling your financial life isn't just a skill, it's a form of power. In a world that's sort of designed to keep you as a compliant employee and consumer, taking charge of your financial education is perhaps one of the most revolutionary acts you can undertake.